The 2005 Trump stock market crash is here. Okay, guys, so wow, I just wanted to make this quick video to give you guys an update on what kind of took place in the markets, okay, on Thursday, April the 3rd, 2005. So this was really kind of a really historic day for the stock market. As you guys know, the S&P 500 was almost closed down 5%. This was the worst stock market crash that we've had in around 5 years, ever since COVID times during the pandemic. So it's been really, really crazy to see so much red on the board. And a lot of this has obviously been caused by Donald Trump's tariffs. So basically, what happened is a lot of investors chose risk off assets like things like gold or stuff like that, or just to hold cash. But I would also think happened is I think a lot of foreign investors who invest in the U.S. stock market responded quite negatively to the new tariff policy. Okay, so basically, I talked about this in the earlier video how this was bullish for Bitcoin. I think in the long run, but do expect some downside pressure right now. Now, I'm not saying that stocks are going to crash that much further because I was taking a look at the CNN Greed and Feared Index and it's already at 8 out of a scale of 100. So I feel like this is definitely a lot of fear, and I do expect some dip buyers to come in and pick up some of these stocks on the cheap because usually things when stocks and crypto sell off like this, usually markets recover. Okay, the same thing happened back during the pandemic crash. We recovered from there. We recovered from the 2008 2009 crashes. We recovered from the dot-com bust. So usually markets will recover, okay? And I expect a lot of the smart money to come in and buy the dip on a lot of these stocks. Now, me personally, I mostly invested in crypto in terms of Bitcoin, but there are a few Bitcoin backed stocks that I have my eye on, okay? And I'm going to give you guys five stocks to look at that you could purchase on the American stock exchanges that I think are in a good position right now. So obviously, I like my strategy, okay? Strategy, ticker symbol MSTR. I like the 2X strategy ETF, MSTU. I like Marathon or Mara, Mara Holdings, MARA. Clean Spark, CLSK, and RIOT blockchain, RIOT. So these are just some of the stocks that I like simply because these companies have the most Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And I think these stocks are well positioned and going to really bounce back very strongly towards the end of 2025, simply because that's usually when, historically, during Bitcoin cycles and things like that, that's usually when we see a nice peak in the price as Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies kind of get towards the peak, which is 500 days after the halving event. So the previous halving event was in April 2019, April 19th, 2004. So around 500 days or so after the halving event, usually ends up in around November, December, sometime in 2025. We should see some impressive prices there. But I want you guys to understand that aside from the crypto market, you're going to see a big change in a lot of the valuations in some of these fiat stocks. And this is this big reason why I've been preaching on this channel to shy away from these companies that do not have Bitcoin on their balance sheet. This is the exact reason why. Because with these new tariffs, okay, analysts estimate that as Trump increases these tariffs, it's going to affect S&P 500 earnings drastically. Okay, that's simply because a lot of demand for American goods is going to be reduced. Okay, with these new tariffs, I expect a lot of foreign investors and foreign consumers to shy away from American products, and I expect a lot of companies to be really affected by this when it comes to their earnings and even in their revenue. Okay, because simply um, America has not seen tariffs this high for the last 100 years. Okay, and there was a huge boom in the American economy over the last year because tariffs were extremely low, and that kind of helped the American economy. But what it also did is it kind of made it more difficult for the middle class. Okay, it really helped the people that own stocks and things like that. It helped them a lot because it helped S&P 500 earnings increase and profits for investors. But overall, the overall American economy was really affected. So these tariffs are kind of made to basically make America great again. You can read into that however you want, but this is definitely going to affect some sectors and some businesses. Okay, so like I said, when it comes to fiat denominated stocks, I mean companies that save dollars on their balance sheet, this is the exact reason why Bitcoin was created. Okay. Because the funny thing is, a company like Strategy with over 500,000 Bitcoin, a company like Mara with over 4,700 Bitcoin, okay, some of these companies like Riot Blockchain, things like that, their balance sheet is backed by Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is a global asset that is traded anywhere in the world. They're more likely to survive this whole Trump tariff fiasco than some of the other countries that are reliant on the US dollar, because the dollar's getting weaker. And if more and more countries dump the dollar, more and more countries shy away from American products, where you're going to see a big change in some of the valuations in some of these American companies that trade on the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. This is the danger of keeping your balance sheet in fiat. So, like I said, as long as Bitcoin can recover and move higher for the rest of the 2025 cycle, some of those five tickers that I mentioned, I'm going to put those in the description as well. Those stocks will continue to do well, irrespective of what's going on in the American economy, simply because they're being backed by Bitcoin instead of US dollars. But this is probably a good time. If you're looking at some of these beaten down stocks to buy, you need to make a decision. You need to make a decision if you're going to hold on to these companies that could see a big drastic cut in their earnings and hold through the pain, which is probably going to last at least 6 months to a year, because it's going to take some time for these tariffs to work their way through the system. Okay, I think the reciprocal tariffs become active on April 5th. So you're definitely going to need to watch these most recent earnings, because the earnings in Q1 should come out pretty strong because the tariffs were enacted in Q2. So we really won't see the effect of these tariffs until companies report their Q2 2025 earnings later this year. So you really need to be careful. But I know a lot of people are dumping a lot of these risky stocks. Okay, we see some big crash, nearly 5%. The S&P 500 is an incredible sell-off. And so with the fear and greed index so low, with the RSI really low on a lot of these companies, I expect a lot of people to be greedy when others are fearful, and buy the dip on some of these stocks. But in my opinion, now is the time, because Liberation Day was the inflection point and really was the countdown to the end of the U.S. dollar as a global reserve currency via Donald Trump's, very, very aggressive, reciprocal tariffs. I think now is the time to really think about rotating out of those fiat stocks that could be really crushed in this trade war, and moving into these Bitcoin backed companies that just have a sounder balance sheet, in my opinion. Okay. Bitcoin is used by nearly everyone on the earth. And when Bitcoin moves up, these companies, their balance sheet moves up as well. I think Michael Saylor was a genius in kind of leading the charge into getting companies out of the having US dollars and fiat currencies in their balance sheet, and moving companies to having Bitcoin digital gold on their balance sheet. This is exactly why. And, Saylor did this in August 2020. So he was nearly 5 years ahead of the whole trade war. And I think he's really going to go down in history as kind of saving a lot of American companies that are unfortunately going to be, pretty much crushed by Trump's, very, very aggressive tariffs. So, like I said, do expect a lot of downside risk over the next, I would say, couple of months until we get those Q2 2025 earnings reports. We really don't know how a lot of these American companies, how these stocks are going to really react. So, like I said, be careful out there. Okay, if you're holding some of these stocks, now's probably a good time to sell covered calls on your positions to kind of mitigate and limit your downside risk, because I don't think a lot of people want to touch American stocks right now. So, but if you're a long-term investor, you're not thinking about retiring over the next 5 to 10 years, now's a great time to buy the dip. Just make sure that you're investing in companies that have a decent moat, that have a product that's kind of hard to copy, and most importantly, have an extremely loyal customer and fan base. because there's going to be a big wealth transfer over the next 2 to 3 years because of these tariffs, and we really won't get to see the veil unlifted until we see those Q2 2025 earnings reports to see who's making more money and who's losing more money. So, like I said, this is a great dip buying opportunity. The best thing about investing in Bitcoin-backed stocks is that you have safety and security knowing that as long as the Bitcoin network's strong, as long as these companies keep adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet, you're going to do really, really well on the long run, because as Bitcoin lifts all boats, so not only does it lift the net worth and of course the savings of Bitcoiners, but it lifts these companies that are backed in Bitcoin. So I think right now, if I'm going to leave you guys with one stock that I say you just got to sort of smashing the table on, it's MSTR. Man, I mean MSTR right now with over 500,000 Bitcoin on its balance sheet, by far the strongest company in America right now that is basically built to withstand these Trump tariffs the best. I think they're just a strong buy. So, like I said, I'll be looking to add more of that stock as well. And like I said, I really recommend you guys add that MSTR stock to your retirement. Okay, especially if you don't plan on retiring for 10 to 20 years. I already made a video on MSTR. You guys can check that out. So I'll be making some more updates. But strategy stock is just looking like the clear winner in this whole stock market crash. So that's all I got until now, guys. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for more content. And let me know what you guys think. What stocks are you buying now? Are you getting out of stocks altogether, moving your money into crypto? Like I said, I have most of my net worth is in crypto, but I do hold stocks, mainly Strategy, MSTR, ticker symbol MSTR, and Mara, ticker symbol MARA. That's kind of a way to diversify, and I prefer to hold these assets in my retirement accounts as well. So that's all I got until now, guys. Until next video, take care.